up, fellow YouTubers? This is Santi Reviews here with
Thurston.
and we went to go see King Arthur: Legend of the Sword Thursday night when it premiered. This movie is a reimagining of the King Arthur story. So if you've seen it from Disney or other King Arthur movies, this is nothing like that. I'm gonna go ahead and let Thurston talk about it. Go ahead, Thurston, give us a synopsis.
So, in this sort of reimagining, you have Uther as the head of Camelot, and there's sort of a tenuous peace with the mages, such as like Merlin and co. And he's currently at war with a particular mage by the name of Mordred. He defeats him, there's a little bit of betrayal, and Arthur is basically left to be raised in the slums and become king as his destiny.
Yeah, it starts off like that, and it's a really good opening. You know, a lot of action, and it's directed by Guy Ritchie. So, if you've seen Guy Ritchie's movies, I have. I've seen most of them. My favorite is Rock and Rolla, and that one, if you like that movie, or Sherlock Holmes, the ones with Robert Downey Jr., you're really gonna like this movie because it's a lot of his style of jump cuts. And not really explaining like the story. When they're telling the story, they're just doing jump cuts of showing what they're talking about. So if you really like that, yeah, I'd advise to go see it. What do you think? Because he's never seen any Guy Ritchie's movies.
This is my first Guy Ritchie movie. I don't know. I guess I'm more of a story guy. It felt like it was just a lot of things happening and not really much development of the character. Arthur just sort of was there and accepted his fate, kind of a thing. It didn't really go into his personal, thoughts on it or anything like that. Or it was just sort of here you go.
Yeah. So we're gonna talk about the movie right now. So major spoilers. If you don't want to see anything about this movie, if you want to go see it first, then come back and watch this, and you can leave comments down below. But we're going to spoil this movie really bad, so stop the video. Alright, you've been warned. So, what I really liked was, in the first part, like I said, it was just a lot of action. And that they showed the mages, they're not wizards, they're mages. So, their powers are they're not like overbearing powers, they're more like potions. And what else? Potions and telepathy,
kind
right?
Like animal control, sort of.
Yeah, there we go.
At least from the mage that we really saw most of.
Yeah, because there was only like maybe 2 mages or 3.
Technically, I think we only ever see 3 of them.
3 mages out of it. So like you said, when it started off, we went to Camelot and you see them fighting a mage.
Mordred.
Yeah, and then what you didn't like was that Mordred
in Arthurian legend was, Arthur's son through his sister, but Mordred's fighting his father Uther.
Yeah, and like I said, it's just a reimagining of this. So, like that's what probably took you out of the movie, right? Just you because you know the backstory.
Yeah, I think a little bit of that disjointedness threw me off a little. I did think he was pretty cool and he was pretty powerful, just blowing slews of archers and soldiers away with his fire magic. Yeah,
that was actually pretty good. And then and Eric Bana played King Arthur's dad, or Arthur's dad, I'm sorry to say.
Uther Pendragon.
Yeah, Uther Pendragon. And what this movie really shows is that Excalibur is the most powerful thing in that world that it could take out if he can control it, which was basically the whole movie of Arthur trying to control the sword. Go ahead.
And yeah, in this telling, it is a sword that was crafted from the staff of the greatest mage. So it's kind of cool that it was actually kind of a wooden sword, essentially. But it was so powerful, it basically kind of had wind magic and I guess magic canceling.
Yeah, it was one of those, like, whatever he needed to get done, it got done. So, like, Arthur's dad was fighting Jude Law's character, which Jude Law did really good in this movie. I thought he was a standout in this movie as the bad guy. I think he played a really good bad guy. What do you think about Jude Law?
I really liked him as King Vortigern. I actually liked that he was dropping an F-bomb. I haven't seen too many Jude Law movies, but the ones I have he's usually pretty straight-laced and everything. So
yeah, he's just a pretty boy. Like, oh. Yeah, I see what you mean. But yeah, like, and you also would tell me that you like that he ruled on fear. Like his
Yeah.
big thing was, they don't have to respect you; they just have to fear you, and he really showed that in this movie.
Yeah, towards the end of, I guess it would sort of be like the end of the first act, kind of the start of the second. When Arthur is about to be beheaded, he's talking to Arthur about, oh, once you've gotten a taste of how it is to rule by fear, you won't want to let go. It's just so intoxicating. And then he just sort of waves his hand to the crowd, and they bow to him in the wave, and he's just closes his eyes, just really reeling in the emotion of that euphoria, that feeling.
Yeah, and like I said, Jude Law did really well in this. Charlie Hunnam in this movie, he could have. I don't think he could have been better because the script wouldn't have allowed it. I think.
Yeah,
What'd you
I mean,
think?
I think he did. I think he did pretty well given the story and everything. I thought that Jimon Honsu would have a bigger part. He was in a lot of the scenes, but he was not. He didn't really have much action or like speaking part really.
Oh yeah, Game of Thrones. Yeah, him.
Littlefinger.
Yeah, Littlefinger. But he did it. I thought he good. What got me was his voice. He's always with that with his voice, and I was just like, okay, I know who he is. And then Charlie Hunnam stars as Arthur, and I think his story was pretty good because his dad dies, his parents die, and then he gets picked up by a bunch of, for lack of better words, ladies of the night, and he kind of takes over their brothel,
Yep.
and makes them money, and he has a lot of pull in his little community.
Protect them.
Yeah,
Protects
like
them
he
as well.
protects them. So he kind of was brought up that way, and like I like that part of the story where it showed, like I said, it was just jump cuts of him at different ages, at different times of his life, but it explained it well enough to where I can follow it. What do
Yeah,
you think?
kind of being the scrappy youngster, not afraid to get into a fight, but also generally still good natured. He's sort of like Han Solo-ish, where he's not he's willing to work under the table, be a little shady and stuff to get things across, but he's still generally the good guy.
Yeah. And then that's where it picks off where their king is
King Vortigern.
King Vortigern. The sword reappears, and what's cool about this part is that Eric Bana dies fighting the king, well, the new king, and he throws a sword up and it stabs him and he turns into the stone, which was kind of like, I like that part because
I liked it too. Yeah.
yeah, it was
Definitely.
something different, and the water receded to show the sword because when they fought they were like over
Some docks.
some docks, and he just falls all the way down, turns
He-
into stone, falls all the way down.
He sank like a stone.
Yeah, he sank like a stone, and the water receded, and it showed the sword. So, the king was telling everybody, all of his guards, to get men of his age to come over and try and pull the sword out. And that's where you see Arthur pull the sword out, and then he passes out. And then after that, we figure out that he was traumatized, and he really didn't want to accept the responsibility of the sword. What'd you think?
Yeah, I mean that basically sums it up. I feel like it's a little bit like Willow, where the sorceress kind of exiles the is trying to kill all the children, the baby girls that are supposed to overtake her and everything, and that's kind of how it worked with Arthur, kind of going down in a boat and finding his way to the slums, and then being the chosen one.
And the one thing I really liked about it was that it didn't have a lot of the Lady of the Lake, where he had to go and this and that. Like, Lady of the Lake, I think, was used appropriately in this. What'd you think?
She was used pretty well. I mean, she gave him the sword again. And which is the funny thing is that Excalibur itself was like a fine sword, but the real magic came from the sheath. It wasn't the sword itself.
Yeah.
The sheath of the sword granted Arthur invulnerability.
Yeah, and then that's where I think that where Guy Ritchie did his own thing.
The final battle I did feel was a little anticlimactic, just because Arthur just kind of strode in, you know, willingly, and was so cocky about it that it didn't really feel like Vortigern was a challenge at the end.
Yeah.
He did sacrifice his daughter, but like,
Well, he sacrificed his family. That was
at that point it was, yeah. I mean, he'd already sacrificed his wife to kill Uther,
Uh-huh.
but technically his wife too.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. He just, at that point, I just felt Arthur was so resolute and everything that it wasn't like when he was being beaten down by Vortigern. It wasn't as like dramatic, I don't think, as it could have been.
I really did like it. The only thing I didn't like was that they had Guy Ritchie in it, or not Guy Ritchie. Guy Ritchie's friend. What the hell's his name? David Beckham. That guy. He's too pretty. That guy is too pretty. They tried to ugly him up, but he's the only guy in that whole movie that has gel on his hair. Yeah, that kind of took me out of the movie. What do you think?
Yeah, I think Charlie Hunnam had some gel there. Definitely had some gel moments.
Yeah, it was. Like I said, that was the only real part that took me out.
There's also Katie McGrath, who was Vortigern's wife, and she played Morgan Le Fay in Merlin, the British BBC TV
Oh
series.
yeah, that's right. You were telling me that.
So that was kind of a cool
Yeah,
little
it's
nod
kind
off
of a
too.
cool little nod off. But other than that, I think like the fight scenes were worth the price of admission to go see fight scenes like that. Like you said, the story wasn't all that great, but I just like the fact that it was just all action. That's just a Guy Ritchie movie. It's a guy movie. You know.
It was all right. I mean, I probably wouldn't see it again at the theaters, but you know, I'd watch it on TV. Something else I thought was kind of sort of weird was they just sort of threw in the Dark Plane realm thing.
Yeah, it wasn't really explained on what it was. It was just like, oh, you have to go to the dark plane to go take over the sword, and then also go take down the tower. But it wasn't explained like what it was.
I guess it was sort of like an alternate wizard realm, and it's kind of where they get their dark superpower war machine magic from. Because I think that's where the giant elephants came from too.
Yeah.
Because that's where the giant rats and snakes and stuff came from. It's like a world of dire creatures from D&D or something.
Yeah, I was just missing that dice, critical hits. But other than that, like I said, I wouldn't watch it again in the theater. I'd probably watch it on DVD or when it streams. But overall, it was enjoyable for what it was. An action movie. I enjoyed it for that. If you're not really into action, I wouldn't recommend you see that. But I think Erston probably not going to see it again or not recommend it to anybody else. What do you think?
I would say, it's worth seeing, at the, the cheaper theaters or something. Save yourself a few bucks, or, see it on regular. Don't see it on like 3D or something.
Yeah, you're right. Next movie we're going to be seeing is going to be Aliens Covenant. We're all going to be doing that. So that's going to be an N5 exclusive. Yay. So all of us. Well, that's our review of King Arthur. If you have any comments, go ahead and comment down below. Like, share, and subscribe. And we respond to all comments, so hit us up. All right, thank you, YouTubers. See you next week.
Peace out.
Jen, what'd you do?
Oh, it was like Eric Banner played his father. I was like, that's terrible.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know that, but that's terrible. Sorry.
Well, we can go. We can just cut it back.
Sorry.
Yeah. We just
All
keep
right.
going.